There was no front line in Homs, nowhere that could be called safe. And getting in without getting caught would be perilous. The CNN team had made it out of the field and through the night. Then, just inside the Syrian border, the first signs of hardship and conflict.
For nearly a week now, there has not been a single loaf of bread produced here. There is no flour, and that is because flour is subsidized by the government. Its distribution fully in the control of the regime, and they're not sending supplies out here anymore.
In this safe house along the way, opposition forces held a man who says he killed for the al-Assad regime.
They gave us guns with scopes, and you see the body as if you're looking at yourself in the mirror. He could see the protesters were unarmed, but he fired anyway, claiming it was kill or be killed for not carrying out orders.
To get into the besieged neighborhood of Babarama, the CNN team followed a secret route.
Some of these routes are the only way that they have to get whatever meager medical supplies they're getting in, and more importantly, to evacuate the wounded because they can't treat them.
For the thousands trapped in Babarama, the route was their only precious lifeline, and keeping it secret meant keeping the cameras off.
If we'd been caught and they got our footage, it would have compromised everybody. It's not worth it. These activists, the opposition, they're risking everything to have that jeopardized because we wanted to film something. That's completely out of the question.
Handed from one opposition group to the next, it would take days for Arwa, Neil and Tim to reach the besieged city.
How long did it take to get to Homs?
5 days.
5 days. And if you wanted to, I don't know, just pick up and drive there without any of this, how long would it take?
A couple hours.
A couple hours. What do you find when you go in there? What's your sense of the place?
I remember just looking up and around, and it was dark. There's no lights, and it was one of the eeriest place I've ever been, I can tell you.
And what are you thinking then?
Well, it's trying to assess what we've come into. It's 3 in the morning. We know that the shelling is about to start in a few hours' time. We hadn't really slept much the day before, and I know we probably didn't really sleep much in those few hours before the bombardment started. And it started like almost on the dot, and it was quite intense.
Describe how it unfolded.
Well, we're basically lying on the floor in this room. We've got our equipment around us. Then you just start hearing explosions around you. Some were in the distance, and all of a sudden one would be right outside in the street. It was very random in its nature.
The shelling started as it does just about every single morning with daybreak, and it's pretty much non-stop. And this is why the cry we're hearing from the streets here is please, please do something to stop the violence.
You're ex-special forces. How did this rate, this whole experience?
We had more incoming rounds within the first 10 minutes than in the 7 months that I was in Bosnia during the war.
Here we have just one of many buildings that has been hit in this artillery barrage.
When the bombardment eased, the team could see for the first time exactly what had happened to Homs.
The streets are mostly deserted. The majority of residents are staying indoors or have already fled. You always wonder what life is like for people in these places, and you're driving through and it's mostly deserted. Most of the buildings have sustained some sort of damage.
You can see the roof on that one.
And then you'll see a kid peek their head out from a doorway, or you'll see a man walking in the street carrying an AK over one shoulder and a bag of diapers over the other. And there's all these people, and you want to go out to them and speak to them. I mean, how did they survive for this long? What were they going through? What was going on? Or you'd walk into houses that would be covered in a layer of dust, and there'd be all these kids' shoes outside.
Just the constant sound of gunfire non-stop, and then street after street after street of rubble just like this.
We come across some members of the Free Syrian Army who take us around. This is another spot that apparently we can also see the government tank positions from.
There was one point we were with some members of the Free Syrian Army, and there was like a hole in the wall where we filmed like a tank through, and then when you pull back to that, there was a kid's Winnie the Pooh backpack on the side of the bed. And they just left. Like, you know, that's kind of hard to see sometimes, you know. Whole family's just uprooted and disappeared.
Personal belongings are all still inside.
You do get angry, I know you get real mad.
I do. There's no way to answer their questions of why is this happening to us? Why isn't the world helping us? How many more of us have to die? Why is our life worth nothing?
Emotion is an important part of storytelling. We don't want the reaction to become the story, but it is clearly a part of the story because you as a viewer are going to empathise with that. This isn't a manufactured emotion. This is based on, I've been here, I've seen this.
For the CNN team, the destruction in the streets was bad enough, but the desperation of the injured would be even more shocking.